Shalom Israel, Shalom, Shalom. This is Brother Warriala, and this is my channel, Rise Up Israel. First and foremost, I would like to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, the Most High God, Yahweh, who the world will call God or Jehovah. And I do so in the name of His only begotten Son, whose name is Yahweh Shai, who the world will call Jesus Christ, Yeshua, Jesus. So I give all honor and glory to Yahweh by Shema Mashiach Malak Yahushai, right? And I want to do a quick video on, pretty much my little dialogue, my little conversation with AI, with ChatGPT, and what ChatGPT had to say about who the true Jews are, who the true Israelites are, according to the scriptures, right? And so Lord willing, this edifying video through the Spirit. First, I want to go to the verse on the verse of the conversation, which is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and 45, where it says, bear with me, Salakia, where it says this: Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenedest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. Right? So we understand that all the curses that would be on the Israelites would overtake them and pursue them, and would be on them until they're destroyed. So obviously, if you read the curses of Deuteronomy chapter 28, you see that it's a bunch of unfortunate events and disasters that would happen to this people group, right? When you read verse 46, it says, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever, right? Now, when we see this being written, when we see this, it comes off slightly different, right? So, Salakia, bear with me real quick. Right? This is, let's read it in the GNT real quick, and it says this: all these disasters will come upon you, and will be with you until you are destroyed, because you did not obey the Lord your God and keep all the laws that he gave you, right? And they will be the evidence of God's judgment on you and your descendants forever. Meaning, this is evidence. This will be the evidence of God's judgment. So I just wanted to ask ChatGPT what they thought about this, right? Where it says this: like I said, all these disasters will come on you, and they will be with you until you are destroyed, because you did not obey the Lord your God and to keep all the laws that he gave you. Verse 46, they will be the evidence of God's judgment on you and your descendants forever. So obviously the Israelite perspective is that we take this as, this is the living proof that God's judgment and his covenant with the Israelites are not over. You know what I'm saying? By his covenant being manifested on this specific people group, right? This is the evidence of the Most High's judgment, right? So I asked ChatGPT briefly explain what this is talking about. And this is what ChatGPT says: the passage you've quoted refers to a warning of curses and consequences that befall the Israelites if they fail to obey God's commandments, obviously. This type of warning is found in the book of Deuteronomy, specifically in the blessings and curses. Remember this. ChatGPT specifically points out this is the part of the Bible where the blessings and the curses are expressed or prophesied, right? In the section Deuteronomy 28, right? So remember that. Keep that in mind. In this context, Moses is addressing the Israelites, emphasizing the importance of obedience to God's laws. The disasters mentioned include various forms of suffering, calamities, and misfortunes that would serve as evidence of God's judgment against them and their descendants. These curses are contrasted with the blessings that would come from obedience. The passage underscores the conditional nature of the covenant between God and Israel, where obedience brings blessings and disobedience brings curses, right? And in summary, this passage is part of a larger discourse highlighting the consequences of disobedience to God's laws, intended to motivate the Israelites to remain faithful to their covenant with God, right? So I asked ChatGPT, so what does it mean by evidence? Like, give me an example of what this prophecy could look like in its fulfillment in the future of the Israelites, right? That's important because you want to know how from an unbiased view, how could this be viewed on a in a historical scale? What is it like when this happens to people, right? And this is what ChatGPT says. The passage refers to the disasters and curses as evidence of God's judgment on the Israelites for their disobedience, right? The passage refers to this as evidence, right? This means that the misfortunes and calamities they experience would serve as tangible signs or proofs of the consequences of not following God, right? So understand this. This right here, these calamities and these misfortunes, these curses, they serve as tangible signs. Tangible. Let's look up the word tangible, right? And it says this: perceptible by touch, right? The atmosphere of neglect and abandonment was almost tangible, right? Clear and indefinite, real. The emphasis is now on tangible results. So it's palpable, it's touchable, it's physical, it's real, it's very substantial, right? And it's solid. So these signs are as clear as day, is evident. The experience, understand what this is saying. This means that the misfortunes and the calamities they experience will serve as real, touchable, tangible, palpable, just evident signs or proofs of the consequence of not following God. So this would be on a specific people, right? This is something that should be you should see on the Israelites without a shadow of a doubt. This should be evident, right? So let's keep reading. An example of how this prophecy could manifest in its fulfillment includes the historical events that affected the Israelites, such as conquest and exile. That's something that you know for a fact happened to the Israelites, right? The Roman destruction, we know that happened to the Israelites, right? And now they wanted to slide this part out, which I thought was funny. Ongoing persecution and suffering. Throughout history, the Jewish people have faced various forms of persecution, suffering, including the pogroms of Europe and the Holocaust during World War II. Which, when you actually look into the history, you cannot apply any curses to what Jewish people went through. You can't. There's no type of nothing that speaks on them being under the curses of Deuteronomy 28. It is not evident, right? And socioeconomical hardships, which you actually would see happening to the real Israelites of the Bible, right? But let's keep going. In each of these examples, the suffering and calamities experienced by Israelites serve as evidence or signs that fulfill the warnings given in Deuteronomy. Exactly. What's important is these evidence that happen, they have to serve as a fulfillment. It has to be a fulfillment of the warnings given in Deuteronomy, right? They have to fulfill it. Like when Christ came, he had to fulfill prophecies pertaining to him. He had things that was written before in the scriptures. Christ had to come and fulfill them, right? And that's why I say that the Israelites have to be the black and Hispanic people have to be the Israelites, because understand one that which when you read Revelation chapter 19:11, it says that the doctrine of Christ or the spirit of Christ is prophecy. Right? We understand the spirit of Christ is prophecy, right? And the foundation of this belief system is based on prophecy. When you understand the foundation of our belief system, which is the curses that we would be pretty much in a way resurrected from our old estate or from our dead estate, when you understand that prophecy is what we lean on for this, and once we gain this, it gives us the baseline of how prophecy works in the scriptures. It turns out that's how all prophecies are pretty much are understood in the scriptures. They would come as a sign, right? That things would happen, right? So when prophecies come to pass, it goes to show it shows you how things are to be fulfilled, right? So we see how prophecies fulfill in the scriptures because of what happened to us. Let's keep reading. So I go again. I said in the same verse. All these disasters will come on you, and they will be with you until you're destroyed, because you did not obey the Lord your God and keep all the laws that he gave you. They will be evidence of God's judgment on you and your descendants forever. And I told him this: briefly explain what this is talking about without any outside context. Only use what is written in the brackets, because I want to be a little more specific. I want you to narrow down on the verse specifically and tell me what the verse is speaking about, right? I don't want any Jewish regular rhetoric and biases. And this is what I did this purposefully, because I wanted him to be, I wanted whatever ChatGPT is, I wanted ChatGPT to be very unbiased in his approach, right? So I asked to be specific, and it says this: the passage within the brackets is a warning that the disasters will come upon the people and persist until they are destroyed, because they did not obey the Lord their God and keep all the laws he gave them. These disasters will serve as perpetual evidence of God's judgment on them and their descendants, right? So again, it's a perpetual evidence. You do not see perpetual evidence on that nation of people of God's judgment on them and their descendants. You do not see it. Like that's not something that you see. All right, so for instance, right, we can just go to just a quick one, right? Look, Deuteronomy 28:41. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but they shall not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. When did that happen? When did that ever happen to them? Right? And not to go too much over the whatever. And let's see. Let me grab a few. Look, Deuteronomy 28:33. The fruit of thy land and all thy labor shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always. When did the nation that they didn't know come from a place far and oppress them? Right? So that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. When did this happen? Right? Verse 36. The Lord shall bring thee and thy king and your leader, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and thou shalt serve other gods, wood and stone. Where is that evident in their history? Where do we see that being evident in their history, right? Let me grab another one. Which one? Let's see. Okay, here we go. The stranger that is, verse 43, the stranger that is within thee shall get above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. So there should be a stranger in your land that when he moves into your land, he succeeds and you decrease in economic wealth, right? And he shall lend to thee, and while he's coming into your communities, he's going to give things to you, and thou shalt not lend to him. Meaning there's nothing you can offer him, because he can offer you everything, right? He shall be the head and thou shalt be the tail. You can't tell me anywhere in their history or in modern history that they're the tail in anything. They're the head in everything that they do, right? So we understand that these curses are a sign, right? This is tangible evidence. You don't see these things being tangibly emphasized, right? You don't see these things being shown in their history, right? So let's keep these things in mind, and we'll just keep going. Okay, and I said explain what it means by evidence, because I wanted to really emphasize what he meant by evidence. Did I already read this? Okay, let's keep reading. In the context of the passage, evidence means that the disasters and misfortunes that befall the Israelites will serve as a clear and tangible signs of God's judgment. These ongoing calamities will act as proof or confirmation. It would confirm. Salakia. Let's look up the word confirmation. Bear with me, Salakia. The action of confirming something or the state of being confirmed, right? It's confirm. It's verification, right? The Most High has to verify, right? But these ongoing calamities will act as proof or confirmation that the people are experiencing divine retribution for their failure to obey God's laws. If you look at a people and you see them going into the curses, understand this one thing: this is not happening because one nation is just stronger than them or because they're just a weak nation. The only way that this can happen to so-called Black and Hispanic people is if divine retribution is being manifested on this nation of people. This is divine retribution. This is divine judgment. This is a divine punishment. The hand of the Most High God has to be on Black and Hispanic people for them not to be the world leaders, for them not to be the top of the earth, for them not to be the head and not the tail. Understand that for a fact. It is nothing of anybody's works or doings outside of the Israelites not keeping God's laws, right? And this is something that you see evident, right, in the scripture. This is Daniel chapter 9 and 11. Salakia. And it says this: Yea, all Israel have transgressed thy law, even by departing, that they might not obey thy voice, right? That we sinned as a nation and we didn't obey the voice of the Most High God as he commanded us. Therefore, the curse is poured upon us, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of God, because we have sinned against him, right? And look what it says. Oh, look at this shit. Look, nigga. Oh, Salakia. Lord have mercy, right? And it says this, and he hath confirmed his word. Hold up. This is proof or confirmation that the people experience the divine retribution for the failure of God's laws. This is confirmation, right? Look what this says right here. And he hath confirmed his words, which he spake unto us and against our fathers that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil. That's how it works. That's what happened to Black and Hispanic people, right? For under the whole heaven hath not been done as hath been done unto Jerusalem, right? So again, these words are confirmation. So when it happens, it confirms. He confirmed his covenant. God, look. Let me grab this again. This is confirmation of God's covenant. Understand that for a fact. He confirmed his words. What are his words? The things written in the law, right? With the things, commandments he made us, and the judgments and the prophecies that he gave us. That was written in the law. That's the covenant that the Most High made with us, right? So, this is the Most High God confirming his covenant, right? Let's get confirmation that the people that are experiencing divine retribution for their failure to obey God's laws, the enduring nature of these events will continually demonstrate to them and to future generations that they are under God's judgment, right? And this goes, and this is beautiful because this even leads to other scriptures that express that the Israelites are the only people that understand God's judgment, right? This is Psalm 147 and 1. This is Psalms 147 and 19. It says this: He sheweth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. His judgments have been showed to Israel, right? He hath not dealt so with any nation, and as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye Yahweh, right? So we understand that these judgments would only be happening to the Israelites. I'm not saying another nation can't be judged, but as far as his judgments, you understand his judgments is his laws, right? It is the covenant that he made with Israel. Those are the judgments that he's speaking about that the other nations have not known yet. And if you really want to understand the judgment of the Most High, no other nation have been judged like the children of Israel have. And it's because he knows the Israelites, right? Let's keep reading. Would it be asked ChatGPT this? Would it be considered this people's histories when these prophecies are fulfilled, right? Could this be considered Israelite history when these prophecies are fulfilled? Why? Because as a nation of people, we consider these things our history. This curse that's written in Deuteronomy, we look at them and we say, oh wait, this is our history, right? And it says this: yes, it would be considered the people's history when these prophecies are fulfilled. When the disasters and misfortunes predicted in the prophecy come to pass, they become part of the historical record and collective memory of the people. So when these things are fulfilled, they are this is the representation of this people group. These terrible things, these people will be known for, right? Like the transatlantic slave trade, like what happened with the Native Americans in the Americas. These things, this is how they're known from the world. Terrible events, right? And although people may say the Holocaust is a terrible event, that's not, you don't see that being manifested in Bible prophecy. You don't see Deuteronomy expressing those events ever happening. That's not talked about in Deuteronomy. So of course you can say it's a terrible event. You can say Hiroshima and Nagasaki is a terrible event. But where does it say that would happen to God's chosen people? That's my point, right? So this is the historic record and collective memory of the people. These events serve as historical evidence of the prophecy's fulfillment. This is what I'm telling you. These events that happen, they serve as historical evidence of the prophecy's fulfillment. So when you see his Black or Hispanic brother or sister, look at how happy you should be to deal with another person of this manner, right? Because what's important is understanding that Black and Hispanic people simply being alive right now and going through the things they're going through is proof that God is real. You can't have a conversation with atheists because or they can't. You should never lose a debate with atheists, because you are living proof that God is real. Because you're living proof that prophecy is still in effect and is still a fulfillment, is still for being fulfilled, right, by the God of the Bible. So understand that one thing for a fact. You don't gotta know a whole bunch of scriptures. You just gotta know for a fact that Deuteronomy, the curse of Deuteronomy, is being manifested to you and your people, and you could literally be sitting here doing nothing and still be a fulfillment of prophecy, right? These events serve as historical evidence of the prophecy's fulfillment and are woven into the narrative of the people's past, right? Often shaping their identity and understanding their relationship with God. Meaning, this right here, it shapes the identity of the people, right? And when they come to their knowledge, it shapes their understanding of their relationship with God, right? And them referring to these curses is how they understand their relationship with God, right? Because remember what I said earlier when I told you to remember, Salakia. Bear with me. I think this is it right here, right? Where it says that the passage you've quoted refers to the warnings of curses and consequences that will befall the Israelites if they failed to obey God's judgments. These type of warnings is found in the book of Deuteronomy, specifically in the blessings and curses, right? So we understand that these things are seen in the blessings and the curses, right? Let's just grab something real quick, right? Because I really don't want to forget this point. In Deuteronomy, we're not going to go into 28. We're going to go to Deuteronomy chapter 30, right? And we're going to go to verse 1, right? Because this shapes their identity and their understanding of their relationship with the Most High God. And that's the position that we're in right now. We're understanding our relationship with God. That's the position that we're in right now. It has come to a point that we simply we're learning what exactly is going on, right? And I'm gonna read it right here. Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 1, that says, "And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessings and the curse." What is the blessings and curses? The things found in Deuteronomy 28, right? "Which I have set before thee, that thou shalt call them to mind among all nations," right? "Whither the Lord thy God have driven thee." Meaning, when you're in all these nations, you're going to remember the blessings and the curse that God gave you. So then, Salakia, you'll have an understanding of what it means by what. Salakia, bear with me. You'll have an understanding of what it means by the about your relationship with God. What your relationship with with the Most High God, Salakia, bear with me. What your relationship with the Most High God is, right? Or what it means. So let me get back to it. How you have a relationship with the Most High God or your nation of people, right? So when all these things are come upon thee, the blessings and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations whither the Lord like I have driven thee. Now I'm going to get back to this whole thing because it's all a part of Bible prophecy. But we understand that these blessings and curses found in Deuteronomy 28, verse 1 to 68. This is the tangible proof and the confirmation of the Israelites being the Israelites, right? So not only that, but they have to call these to mind while they're in the land of their captivity, right? You can't show me Jewish people calling these things to mind while in the land that they simply migrated to. That's all I'm saying. You don't see that being manifested. You don't see any of the. You point to 2 curses in this whole thing that happened to them prior to them getting taken to the land. And why did only the Jews go? Why did not all Israel go? And why still haven't all Israel went if they're the Jews, right? So let's keep going. So let's go. So I asked this. So if we look at the curse collectively, who would they fit in modern history? What does the evidence support? Now, when you talk to ChatGPT, you can't just ask any simple and plain, blunt question. You got to ask it from the most unbiased perspective ever, right? So I asked him, who does this fit? Who do the curses collectively fit in modern history? Modern history, emphasis on the modern. Who do we see this happening to today, right? Not 500 years ago, not 1,000 years ago. Who do we see these curses being evident on today, right? And what does the evidence support? And he says, if we look at the curses described in Deuteronomy 28 collectively and try to see who they might fit in modern history, it is crucial to understand that the interpretations can vary, and many scholars approach this from different angles. Here are a few perspectives. Jewish history, right? They say conquest and exiles. Historical events like the Assyrian conquest of Israel, the Babylonian exile, and the Roman destruction of Jerusalem are often seen as fulfillment of the curses, right? One question. Are these things shown in modern history, or when the Israelites were, or in the history of the ancient Israelites? Because ChatGPT didn't answer this question right. This is not found in modern history. These are things that actually happened to the Israelites. You cannot now by saying this, there's just debate now who this actually happened to. Were we the ones that this happened to, so-called black and Hispanic people, with all these judgments, or did it happen to the Jewish people? So that's not specifically speaking about the Jewish nation, right? And diaspora and persecution, right? This is another point. The Jewish diaspora various persecutions throughout history, including the Inquisition, pogroms, and the Holocaust, can be seen as fitting these curses. None of them can. Please look into it. None of these can be seen as fitting actual Bible prophecy. But look at the second point he has to make. Look at the second group of people, African American history, right? Some interpretations, particularly within certain groups such as the Black Hebrew Israelites, right? Just Hebrew Israelites is fine, or the Israelites is fine. You don't have to say Black Hebrew Israelites. Argue that the curses described in Deuteronomy 28 fit the experiences of African Americans. Look at the emphasis on. Look at the specificity, right, of how the Israelites view this, how the Israelites view their perspective being the Israelites. Deuteronomy, they describe that these curses described in Deuteronomy 28. It fit the experience of African Americans. That's just a beautiful way to put it, because that's exactly what the Most High God said would happen, right? They point to the transatlantic slave trade, systemic racism, and ongoing social and economical hardships as evidence supporting their view. That's exactly how we look at it, right? Now, I'm going to give you a quick and brief understanding of how it is that we come to this conclusion, right? And I'm gonna give you one little quick understanding, right? So bear with me. Let me grab something real quick. Salakia. Grab this real quick. What is this? The NIV? All right, let's go to Exodus chapter 1 and verse 11 in the NIV, right? Let's understand what Egypt means to the Israelites first. Matter of fact, I'm gonna grab the scripture first. Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 68, right? This is how these things express. This is how these things show our experience, right? Of the curses of God, right, on us. This is Deuteronomy 28:68, and it says, "And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships." The Most High God is going to bring you into Egypt again, but this time is going to be with ships, right? Let's just understand what the Israelites were going through in Egypt, right, prior to their salvation, right? So let's grab this real quick. And it says this is Exodus chapter 1:11. It says, "So they put slave masters over them to oppress them with forced labor." So the Israelites, they had to be under forced labor and oppression by their slave masters. They had slave masters. The ancient Israelites had slave masters. Understand this first, right? And they had to deal with forced labor. Did not black and Hispanic people have to deal with forced labor? Huh? Right? Let's keep reading. "And they built Pithom and Ramesses and store cities for Pharaoh." Meaning they had to build up the nation of Egypt. They had to build up all of Egypt, right? But the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread, right? You know why? Because we don't die, we multiply, right? That's a simple principle that we see in the black community, to how we view each other. We don't die, we simply just multiply. Meaning the harder you try to get rid of us, the more and abundant we're going to continue to grow, and more difficult it's going to be for you to get rid of us, right? But The more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread. So the Egyptians came to dread the Israelites, right? Just like the so-called white man hate black and Hispanic people, right? And worked them ruthlessly. Were we not worked ruthlessly, right? They made their lives bitter with harsh labor and brick and in mortar and with all kinds of work in the fields. So they had slave masters forcefully oppressing them and making their lives bitter in the fields. And in all harsh labor, the Egyptians worked them ruthlessly, right? They were on the fields, right? This is what happened to the Israelites in ancient history, right? And this is what happened to the Israelites in more recent history, right? So Deuteronomy 28, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. This, so we understand that this Egypt that they would be under, we understand that the experiences that the Most High God would put on them would be as the same experience as they would be in Egypt, as it was in Egypt, right? And we understand that Egypt isn't a literal Egypt. This is a spiritual Egypt, right? Because we read scriptures like Exodus chapter 20 and verse 2, where it says, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. We understand that Egypt that they would be in is a circumstance, is an oppression, is an oppressive state that they will be under, right? It's not simply it's not in the literal land of Egypt, because the Israelites didn't go back into the land of Egypt as a nation for punishment. That never happened in history, right? And when you look at it, you understand that it's a spiritual Egypt because Egypt represents bondage. The word for Egypt is Mitzrayim, which simply just means bondage or double straits, right? So we understand that they would be brought back into double straits. They will be brought back into the house of bondage, where they were slaves, where they had slave masters, where they were being oppressed and only oppressed, and where they had to work in the fields and do labor in the fields. These things happened to the ancient Israelites, and the Most High God said that they will go back to this estate on ships. They will be shipped to this like cargo, right? Here's another verse that goes into proving my point that this isn't a literal Egypt, right? This is Revelation chapter 11 and verse 8, and it says this, and their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city. There's a great city that their dead bodies will lie in, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord is crucified, right? So we understand that, one, just for the record, our Lord being crucified is talking about the body of Christ, right? So my point being that there's a place called spiritual Egypt that the dead body of the Israelites will be lying in, right? So we have that understanding that it's not a literal Egypt that the Most High is talking about, but a spiritual Egypt. Let's put this all in the context, right? The Israelites would be getting oppressed in the field. They would be having slave masters. They will be only oppressed with forced labor and ruthless and vigorous oppression, and they'd be shipped to this place. That's what happened to the ancient Israelites, right? And look, if you want to argue and say it's talking about literal Egypt, you have to find a time in history where that ever happened, right? Because something like that did happen. Not in its entirety, not in its fulfillment, but something like that did happen to the northern kingdom, right? When they got shipped to Assyria. Look at what the Most High God calls Assyria, right? Because if you can show me one example or one time where the nation, the northern kingdom, as the 10 tribes of Israel, the lost 10 tribes of Israel, show me where they were brought to Egypt. From them being exiled out of the land, show me where they went to Egypt, because none of them did, right? They went to Assyria. So let's read this verse. This is Hosea chapter 9 and verse 3, and it says, they shall not dwell in the Lord's land, but Ephraim, that's the chief of the 10 tribes, shall return to Egypt. What? The Most High said, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. He said you wouldn't go back into Israel again, right? But Ephraim shall return to Egypt. Egypt went back into Egypt, right? Listen to what he says. And they shall eat unclean things in Assyria. Why does it say that? Why is it worded like that? How does that even make sense? Wait, we're going to Egypt or Assyria? Where are we going, Lord? They went to both. They went to Assyria, the house of bondage. They went to Assyria where they had to serve forced labor, because that's what happened to them in Assyria, right? So when you read this, you understand that Assyria is Egypt, not literal Egypt, but by its spiritual connotations to it, right? So hold up, Salakia. So we understand by by the meanings that Egypt have to the Israelites, right? So when you see stuff like that, you understand. You understand that they would be in an Egypt-like state and in bondage, right? So let's get back to it. Deuteronomy chapter 28 and 68. Again, this is a prime example of the Israelites being in Egypt, right? And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there you shall be sold unto your enemies. Meaning, when you get to this Egypt, where you're going to be slaves, serve as slaves, and work in the fields, when you get to this place, right, you're going to be sold unto your enemies. The people that you would be sold to will be your enemies, and they will show themselves to be your enemies, right? And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, which slave men and slave women, and no man shall buy you, meaning nobody's going to redeem you, right? So we see these things being manifested in the history of the Israelites, right? It is evident that this is the evidence that supports our views, right? That's just one example, right? And then economic hardships. Many communities have faced prolonged economic hardships, which we can see as part of these curses, right? And we're talking about, and my question was, who fits all of these curses pretty much? Who fits these curses as a collective, right? And it's Black and Hispanic people, right? Hispanic people fitting the curse where it says, a nation which thou knowest not shall come as pretty much come as swift as an eagle flieth, and they're not going to regard your old nor your young. So we understand that that's being manifested on the children of Israel, right? That's why we come to this conclusion, right? And the fact that prophecies say that both the northern and southern kingdom will be oppressed in the same land together. And again, that's a prophecy that will happen, right? So that has to be evident, right? So let's keep going. Evidence support historical records, documentation evidence like conquest, exiles, persecution, supporting fulfillment of these curses in Jewish community. Okay, whatever. Textual analysis comparing, okay, sociological data for groups like African Americans. Data on slavery, segregation, systemic inequalities can be interpreted as fitting the curses, because it does. Comparing historical events with the text of Deuteronomy 28 can show parallels that support various interpretations, right? It's important to note that these interpretations are often influenced by theological and cultural perspectives, right? Different groups may find different meanings in the text based on their historical experiences and beliefs, right? Then I asked them this: if you could use all these curses as evidence for these people groups right now, let me read this very clearly. If you could use all the curses as evidence for these people groups right now, who would fit the majority of these curses just for evidence purposes, right? And you got to ask, just say it's for evidence, not any other reason, because they're not gonna ChatGPT is not gonna word it how you may want them to, right? So it says this. ChatGPT says this. Artificial intelligence says this. Examining the curses in Deuteronomy 28 and considering their applicability based solely on historical events and current conditions, two primary groups often discussed are the Jewish people and the African Americans. Here's how the curses might fit each. You can look at this, man. You don't see anything. Historical exiles such as the Assyrian and Babylonian captivity, which we don't see. We don't know for sure that that's them. That's my point. You don't know for a surety that that's them. You don't even know that they had a diaspora. You don't even know that. Why did they only come from that part of Europe? Why did that only happen? Why did they only come from Europe? Where does the Most High say, and thou shalt only come from Europe? Right? And why is there only 3 tribes? Why did they only say Judah, Benjamin, and Levi went? Where's the rest of the tribes? Just stuff like that, simple stuff like you don't even, you know what I'm saying? So it don't make sense, right? Then you got this persisting persecution throughout history, including the Crusades, Spanish Inquisition, pogroms in Eastern Europe, and the Holocaust. So with things like, one thing Jewish people always say is, we've been kicked out of every nation. So many people kicked us out, exiled us, things like that. Please show me where that's a curse, where you're kicked out of the nation, which according to the scripture, God sent you to be cursed in. Why are you being kicked out? Are you just too bad for God's judgments, or do you just not fit them? That's my point. Jewish people do not fit the prophecies of Deuteronomy at all. That doesn't make sense. So let's keep going. African Americans, mind you, this isn't even me, because honestly, if I was ChatGPT, I'd be putting how the Northern Kingdom fit this as well. right? But they just, they just, pick the most popular arguments, which is African Americans versus Jewish people, right? So it says forced migration and slavery. The transatlantic slave trade forcibly displaced millions from Africa to the Americas. That is direct fulfillment. Dog, this is damn near Deuteronomy 28:68. This is literally the verse. This is literally the verse. Thou shalt go into Egypt, the transatlantic slave trade forcibly placed millions from Africa to Egypt. From Africa to the Americas. Thou shalt go into slavery on ships, right, to a land where you'll be subject to slavery, damn near, where you'll be sold for bondmen and bondwomen. That's literally Deuteronomy 28:68, right, as I just read to you. Ongoing racial persecution, continued systemic racism, segregation, Jim Crow laws, civil rights struggles, and ongoing racial inequalities, injustice, employment and education, economic disparities, right? Disproportionate economic hardships, higher poverty rates, and significant wealth gaps compared to racial groups in the United States. Social dislocation and marginalization, long-lasting effects of slavery and segregation contributing to social dislocation and marginalization in various spheres of life, right? A comparison: exile and forced migration. Both groups experienced forced displacement. Jews throughout historical exiles and African Americans through the slave trade, right? Which one is a part of biblical prophecy? You tell me. And this tells you about Jewish people face religious and ethnic persecution, while African Americans face racial persecution simply by being who they are, right? Conclusion: both groups can be seen as fitting. Look at this right here, right? Look at this right here. This is the point. This is the conclusion of the whole matter. Both groups can be seen as fitting many of the curses described in Deuteronomy 28. However, although both people fit the curses, although I don't believe that both do, I believe that one does, right? However, this is what ChatGPT says. I didn't type this shit up, Salakia. However, African Americans might align more closely with certain aspects by artificial intelligence. You are hearing this out of the horse's mouth, or however you put it. They align more with the curses, right? Especially regarding the experiences of slavery, systemic racism, and ongoing socioeconomic disparities. The Jewish people historically align with aspects of exile, persecution, and periods of restoration and loss of sovereignty. But the African Americans, they actually fit the curses. That is not me. That is artificial intelligence. Boom, right there it says it. ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, tells you that the Jewish people do not fit the curse of Deuteronomy, while African Americans do. Right? I don't know what I'm gonna title this video, but it's gonna be something along the lines of that. Right? So I'm gonna grab this real quick, just to show you that the estate that we're in is actual Bible prophecy, right? So like I said, how do we fulfill Bible prophecy? I'm about to show you right now, right? When you read scriptures like Baruch chapter 2 and verse 30, or you can just read Deuteronomy 30 verse 1 on down, right? I can grab both, right? But let's read this real quick. This is Baruch chapter 2 and verse 30, and it says this: I know that you will not obey me, because you are a stubborn people, but when you are taken into exile in another land, you will come to your senses. Boom, right there. Let's think about that for a second. While you're away, while you stubborn people, you hard-headed but soft behind people, what community do you hear that in? The black community. But let's keep reading. But when you're taken into exile to another land, when you're brought into another land, right, you will come to your senses. This right here is the creme de la creme of Bible prophecy in regards to the Israelites, right? This is beautiful. While you're exiled out of the land, you will come to your senses, right? Then, verse 31, then you will realize that I am the Lord your God. Just for purposes, were Jewish people in these lands? Did they come to this? Did they have a time where they had to come to their senses? Or did they already know who they were? Were they already practicing certain aspects of what they believe as their divine of Torah? Were they already keeping these things? Were they already following many of these things?
which they don't keep the God's law. I'm not saying that, but where they already proclaim themselves to be Jews, was it something that they already knew? Right? So why would they have to realize that God is their God, that Yahweh is their God? Did they ever have to? No, we do, though. We're doing it right now. Then you will realize that I am the Lord your God, because black people and Hispanic people right now are waking up to the fact that Yahweh is their God, right? Because we didn't know that before, but now we're realizing it. I realized it, my family realized it, our people realized it, that Yahweh is our God, right? And I will give you a desire to know and a mind which to understand. Meaning God will put it in your hearts to search diligently the matters of if you are God's chosen people, right? This is what the Most High God has done. He's put it in our spirit to know these things, right? Let's keep reading. Matter of fact, let me grab a quick scripture real quick. If I can find it, I can find it. If not, it is what it is. Let's go to the book of Psalm. I think it's 77. I think. But if it's not, no worries. We can get back to the verse. Watch this. This is Psalm 77:5, and it says this. I've considered the days of old, the years of ancient times. I call to remembrance my song in the night. I commune with mine own heart, and my spirit made diligent search. And that's what black people, Hispanic people are doing right now. Their spirit is making diligent search, right? Matter of fact, let me grab you another one. If I can remember the scripture, yeah, it might be Isaiah 52. It might be. Lord willing it is, because I don't want to have to go out and look for it. Salakia. Salakia. Matter of fact, now I gotta look for the verse. Salakia, bear with me. It'll be very quick, Israel. Bear with me. Salakia. No, please. Salakia. Salakia, bear with me. Damn. Lord willing, I can find it. If not, it is what it is, Salakia. Salakia, bear with me real quick. I'm gonna get it. Isaiah 30, Salakia. It is Isaiah 30. Bear with me, I don't know every scripture. It's Isaiah chapter 30 and verse 21, right? This is what we're doing right now. And thine ears shall hear a word behind thee, saying, this is the way, walk ye in it, when ye turn to the right and when ye turn to the left, right? Matter of fact, I'll read this in verse 20. And though the Lord give you the bread of adversity and the water of affliction, yet shall thy teachers not be removed. Yet shall not thy teachers be removed into a corner anymore, but thine eyes shall see thy teachers, and thine ears shall hear a word behind thee, saying, this is the way, walk ye in it, when ye turn to the right and when ye turn to the left. And this is what happened to black and Hispanic people right now, right? So look, verse 31. Then you will realize that I am the Lord your God, and I will give you a desire to know and a mind with which to understand, right? There in the land of your exile, you will praise me and remember me. While you're being exiled, while you're being persecuted, while you're in slavery, you're going to praise the name of Yahweh and remember Yahweh's name, right? That's why Yahweh has to be the name of the Lord, right? You will stop being so stubborn and wicked. For you will remember what happened to your ancestors when they sinned against the Lord. You are going to remember the curses of Deuteronomy 20. You're going to call these things to mind. You're going to call the fact that you went into slavery on ships. You're going to call the fact that a nation whose tongue that you didn't understand came like as swift as the eagle flieth and oppressed you and didn't regard your elders or your youngest, right? You're going to remember that you went off, right? And after this, now we're really at verse 33. In the middle of 33, we're at the end of 33, going into 34, right? We're learning to stop being stubborn and wicked, and we're remembering what happened to our ancestors. And this is so close to happening right now, right? Then I will bring you back to the land that I solemnly promised to give your ancestors, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Then, if we just keep pushing, keep turning to the Most High God, quit going off and sinning against the Lord, then the Lord will bring us back to the land that He promised our forefathers, right? To Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And it will be yours again. I will increase your population, and you will never again be reduced to a small number. I will make an everlasting covenant with you. I will be your God, and you will be my people. I will never again remove you, the people of Israel, from the land that I gave you. And with that, I give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Hamashiach, Malak Yahushai, the Wada Abanawa Yahweh, Lord willing, to edify video through the Spirit, Kwame Shawala, Shalom.